We are less than 2 weeks away from the first day of school for Spokane Public Schools, and this year it will look different for some communities, especially with the Spokane area fires. This morning we have Superintendent Dr. Adam Swinyard here with us. Good morning, Dr. Swinyard.
Good
Thanks for
morning.
being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Gosh, where do we begin? This is unprecedented,
hmm
absolutely heartbreaking for so many families. I guess, first off, tell us what's the impact been for Spokane Public Schools, families, parents, teachers, staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an unimaginable journey over here the last since August 1st. Yeah, I mean, you think and you prepare and you have systems and structures in place for these types
Mm.
of events, but you never really know exactly how it's going to go. So grateful to all of our first responders and our city and county partners. We're just so thankful that everybody's safe and together. The loss of property, all those memories,
Mhm.
sentimental items. It's just been heartbreaking to see those families at the Disaster Assistance Center. The grief is comes in waves, and I think it'll be something that's with us for quite some time. Really proud though of how Spokane Public Schools has been able to step up. Right away on Monday we opened a day camp for families that were evacuated. We had about 400 kids every day there,
Wow.
just to provide them that sense of normalcy and just to bring them together and to give parents a reprieve. And, it was just heartbreaking to see how many parents dropped their kids off and they
Mm.
took about 10 steps out the door and just burst into tears.
Wow. Oh.
And you could just see that was the first moment that they had been able to just let their guard down.
Hmm.
They've been trying to hold it together for their kids. It's going to take a long time for some of our families and for our kids to recover. And we're really, proud that we were able then to become the Disaster Assistance Center. We convened over 100 community partners, came to Shadle on Tuesday morning. We had almost 400 people
Wow.
there talking about how do we become as organized as possible to get families connected to services and supports. Our technology department stood up a website in partnership with the county and the city, and there's just been an incredible outpouring of generosity, which is great, and so appreciative. It was coming in so many
Hmm.
thousand directions, both locally, regionally, and nationally. We were grateful that we could mobilize and provide that coordinated support. And in fact, we had some national organizations say they've never seen a school district play that type of role. They've never seen a
Interesting.
community become this organized
Wow.
and this efficient. And so, you look for the rays of hope in
Sure.
these really hard times, and really the generosity in our school districts readiness to step up is something that we should be proud of.
It really was incredible to see how so many came together. Any
Mhm.
idea of how many staff members and students were directly impacted by these fires?
Yeah, we're still in the process of verifying that. We know that we have almost 50 staff members lost their
Wow.
homes. We've got hundreds of kids impacted by losing their homes. For a while there, we had thousands of our kids and families displaced.
Hmm.
And every kid has a circle of security. And in fact, we see it in toddlers. They go from their parents, they kind of venture out, and then they come running back, and then they venture out, and they come, like
Hmm.
when they're out in public places. And that circle of security is both literal and figurative. And in their circle of security, it's their parents, their caregivers, friends, neighbors, aunts, uncles, and a child's home where they sleep is most often part of that circle of security. And anytime any part of that circle is fractured, it can cause significant trauma.
Hmm.
And so we've got a lot of kids that lost their homes that are impacted, and we also have kids who no matter even with the best planning, an evacuation is chaotic and scary. And we heard many examples of families, stuck in traffic, getting out of their cars, grabbing their kids by their hands,
Hmm. Ugh.
running down the road. And so, it's It's going to be a process for kids to work through that. We've got great counselors, mental health therapists. We've been reaching out to those impacted. They can go and sign up on the district website for resources to get them connected if they're not already. So it's going to be a one step of a time, step at a time recovery.
For those schools that have students and staff members directly impacted, how do you navigate that trauma and making school feel normal and a safe place on the first day of school?
Yeah, well, our focus the last 6 years has been that everything orbits around relationships in our schools. And first and foremost, our schools should be spaces where kids feel loved and cared for and that they belong. And that's true any day, at any time.
Sure.
It's particularly important right now. And I believe we've got incredible staff and teachers that are ready to step up and fill that space. And it's about providing as much normalcy as possible. Uh, we've had some of those schools. Indian Trail
Mm,
had a picnic where they brought everybody together, and
wow.
just to see each other and get the kids starting to play, and for families to process with each other and tell each other's stories and experiences. That's part of the road to healing, and we're grateful that we can be a part of that journey with our families. We want our families to know too that the Indian Trail neighborhood, particularly, although we have a number of neighborhoods
Sure.
impacted, that neighborhood's going to grow back strong. Their
Yeah.
neighborhood elementary school is going to be strong. It is going to be continue to be a hub of that neighborhood, and we want our families to know, and want our community to know that that neighborhood is going to come back stronger than ever. That continuing to invest in that neighborhood, rebuilding in that neighborhood, it's going to get the supports it needs to come back strong.
So, talk about for impacted students in
Mm.
particular that are now displaced.
Mm.
Do they fall under the HEART program or other options to be able to stay at Indian Trail? What's the recommendation from the school district? Are you encouraging families to stay with their school?
We are that sense of normalcy. Again, when that circle of security is fractured, part of their school is that circle of security, and so the more points of that circle that can be maintained and reinforced, the better equipped the student is going to be able to
Mm,
deal with that point of fracture. And so we are encouraging our families to continue even if they are displaced at Indian Trail. And there's federal legislation. It's called the McKinney-Vento Act,
okay.
and what that means is any child that is qualifies within the definition of homelessness, whether they're
Mm,
cohabitating, whether they're in a shelter, whatever
sure.
their circumstances are, they're guaranteed transportation to their home school.
Okay.
And so, on any day in Spokane Public Schools, we are transporting kids throughout the
Oh, wow.
county, in partnership with our other school districts to fulfill that commitment to our kids. Obviously, this is a scale that is
Sure.
much
Right.
larger than what we're accustomed to, but our transportation team is already working through those logistics. We're sending communication to those families where they can go on, fill out a form, and share, what their current living plans are. Many of them have made arrangements, not everybody has yet. And as we take in that information, we'll build the logistics needed to get those kids to school.
You talked about scale because this is, that program was probably not factoring in a natural
Yeah.
disaster like this.
Yeah.
Are the funds available to support this level of need?
Yeah, well, we've been really fortunate. Both our state and federal partners have been very attentive to this crisis, and those are the types of things that that some of those things are covered by FEMA.
Hmm.
Some of them will require some state legislative action to get the support that's needed. But everything we've heard from our elected officials is that they're committed to making sure those resources are in place. And I think it's really important to note that although the scale is significant in Spokane County, that we have families and communities across Washington State. Our friends up in Inchelium, for
Hmm.
example, are struggling and dealing with some of these same impacts. So it's not just a Spokane crisis; it's happening all over our state.
Sure. Let's talk about the physical structures, the buildings that were impacted: Indian Trail, Woodridge, and Flet. What was the impact from the fires, and what's being
Mm-hmm.
done to make sure that it's safe for students and faculty to go back to?
Yeah, well, we're fortunate that we had no fire damage. The fire burned within about a half a block
Wow.
of Indian Trail, so it came quite close
Hmm.
to that facility. The fire burned right up to the edge of an access road at Flett. There's a funeral home facility um, adjacent to Flett, and then
Hmm.
there's an access road in between, and it burned right up to that
Wow.
access road. No physical damage to those
Good. Yeah.
structures. We have brought in an outside independent contractor who has come in to do environmental testing on the school. They do air testing, they do soil testing, they check the downspouts. I mean, it's a rigorous battery of tests. We haven't allowed anybody back in those facilities yet,
Hmm.
pending the results. And we actually just heard a few moments ago that those facilities have been cleared and will be
Oh, wow.
allowing staff to re-enter those facilities on Monday. So
Just in
that's
time.
just in time. Yeah, literally just in time. So that's Woodridge, Indian Trail, and Flett will be cleared for occupancy by the district on Monday, and then we will be posting the results of that environmental testing. We'll post it on the school's website so that any family can go on there and read for themselves. We just think that that transparency is really important, and we know our families trust us, and also part of trust is transparency, and we want to make that information available to them.
If you could speak to families right now concerned about their upcoming school year because of the circumstances right now, what would you say to them?
I would say that kids are amazingly resilient. And so we need to be attentive to their needs. We need to be mindful of their circle of security and how it may have been impacted, and they're resilient. And so we want to be good listeners. We want to check in with our kids. We want to ask them how they're feeling. And we want to encourage them and teach them to be strong and to look ahead to the future, look for things to be, hopeful and positive about, and to take one step at a time. I think there have been moments where we can miss an opportunity to teach kids to be strong. Every moment is a teachable moment,
Hmm.
and I think that empathy is really important. Um, but if we're not mindful about empathy and teaching moving forward with strength, that we can sometimes kids can stay in a state of really being stuck in the despair of their experience. And so it's not either or. It's not, well, just be strong and carry on and
Mm.
move forward, but it's also not just, oh my gosh, this is awful, I'm so sorry, are you okay, let's cry. Like
Hmm.
it's not either or, it's both. And so that, I think that's really important, and that looks different for every kid. There isn't a formula that says when a kid
Sure.
experiences trauma, do this and
Right.
this, and it's
There's
gonna
no
it's gonna
playbook.
there's no playbook.
Yeah.
And so it's really individual to the student, but I do really encourage families to say we have to teach our kids to be strong. That is who we are as a culture. Our history is there are so many powerful examples of community strength and resiliency across the history of our culture and our society, and we shouldn't forget about that or lose sight of it. And this is an opportunity to teach kids that we're strong. When we get knocked down, we get up and we work together. We take one day at a time and we move forward. And that's, I think, a really important message.
Anything else you want to say on the response to the fires by Spokane Public Schools? There again, probably no playbook for you in this. How would you say the school district response was, and is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, I'm really grateful that we could step up and play such a prominent role in the crisis response. I think that, more than anything, I'm just really, really proud of Spokane.
Hmm.
I think we are who we say we are. I think in the last few years, there's been moments and topics where we maybe forgot
Hmm.
or maybe lost perspective on who we are. And as awful as a crisis like this is, it is also an opportunity for us to remember who we are. And we are a community that is built around relationships. We are a community that believes in caring for each other. We are a community that believes in being strong. And I just saw so many examples of that.
Totally.
So many
Yeah.
examples. One is our business community. Something that started surfacing at the Disaster Assistance Center was people were coming in asking for business attire clothes
Wow.
because they needed to go back
Sure.
to work,
Yeah.
and their employer expected them to be there.
That was so cool.
I made 2 phone calls, and there were literally truckloads,
Wow.
trailers of business attire clothes, lightly used, much brand new,
Wow.
being dropped off at Shadle to the point where we had to say,
We're
"Too
gonna yeah.
much." 2 phone calls,
Wow.
and literally in a couple hours. And there's just example
Mm.
after example after example. We had a day where there was a huge need for diapers. Um,
Wow.
and Senator Riccelli made one social media post, and we literally had more diapers than we knew what to do with.
Wow.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
That's who we are in Spokane. And so I'm proud that this was a moment that that could really shine through.
Yeah. Well, I want to transition to the new school year. Year will look different for a few different reasons. Can we
Mhm.
talk about the balanced schedule first? First year of this, tell us more about what this means for maybe families who are just getting caught up and wondering why school's
Yeah,
starting
yeah.
earlier.
It's this is going to be interesting to see how it goes. Um, it's really, Tim. I don't consider it. We've called it a balanced calendar kind of throughout the conversation. I'm not sure that is the most accurate
Mm,
term because it's
okay.
really bumping the school year start up about a week,
Sure.
moving it out a couple days, and it's still the same length. It's still 180 school days, but it's building in some different breaks that we haven't had before. So school starts on August 26th, and then we have a week off in October. So that'll be very new and different.
Mm,
We've never done that before. And then we'll have our kind of traditional Thanksgiving break in November, our traditional winter break, and then we'll have a week off in February, and then
wow.
we'll have our April spring break, and then we go to June. And so it's still the same number of
Sure.
school days, but it's just spread out and deployed a little bit differently to have more intermittent breaks. Um, and there were a handful of reasons. One is
Sure.
summer's pretty long, and there's a lot of learning regression that can happen in the summer. So that was one reason. Another reason was, we're starting to see really significant levels of staff and student absenteeism. And this is a strategy to see, well, if we have more intermittent breaks, does that give people to rest, recover? Are we going to see less absences because of illness? And so that's a factor. And also it provides a really, I think, conducive window of time for what we call instructional cycles.
Mm,
I'm going to teach this concept for 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm going to assess where kids are, teach the content, assess it at the end of those 6 to 8 weeks, and then there's this opportunity to step away, and then when we come back, we're starting a new concept.
okay.
And so our teachers and principals are working on how to really make the instruction that kids receive line up and be conducive. What we don't want is teachers are teaching, and then they're
Take a
kind of in the
break.
middle of
Yep.
a topic, and then you have a week break,
Sure.
and then kids have some regression, and now you have to reteach it. So there's lots of pieces that are having to be thoughtfully thought through to make this really maximize the potential of it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year commitment, and we're going to be reevaluating, see what people think.
Yeah. Hey, I would like a fall break if I got it as an adult. Hey, I want to ask you about transportation, some changes to transportation, taking the bus system in-house versus
Mhm.
would you call it a third-party contractor?
Correct. Yeah.
So tell us more about the decision to do that and what it's going to look like this year
Yeah.
and in the future.
For decades, Spokane Public Schools has had a bus contractor. And the reason that we have had a contractor all these years is it was the most cost-efficient model to do
Mm,
that. And some state legislation has changed, which now requires that if you have a contractor, you have to pay them the same level of salaries and benefits that any other public school employee has.
mm,
And so that shift changed whether having a contractor was as cost efficient.
hmm.
And it's actually now going to become more costly. And so we've known this is coming for quite some time. When we signed our contract with Zoom, in the contract, it specifically references that our plan is to go to an in-house model. And so Zoom has been a partner with us in that. Local levy dollars, state public education dollars, like they're over here. Transportation dollars are their own state fund, and it's
Mm,
based on ridership. It's really hard to divorce a contractor
sure.
because there isn't enough money to scale up the infrastructure and buy buses to run your fleet, while at the same time have to run your current system with your contract. There's enough
Mm,
money to do
right.
all that
Sure.
concurrently. And so through our partnership with Zoom, which we're really grateful for, we have been able to purchase buses. And then as those buses are coming into Spokane, Zoom this school year is going to lease the buses that we
Hmm.
own from us to take our kids to school.
Wow.
And that arrangement allows us to buy the buses for the fleet while at the same time be able to operate with our contractor within
Wow.
that funding stream. So, it's a unique arrangement, and we're really grateful for that partnership. And then next year is when it will be a district operated system with our buses and our drivers. We do anticipate, and we're going to be inviting the current bus drivers to be a part of Spokane Public Schools through our typical hiring process. And then the last big piece of this puzzle is start times. And so we're going to have a conversation this fall about how start times need to change, because to run the most efficient transportation system, we have 3 tiers right now. And so high school starts, then elementary starts, then middle school. So we have a 3-tier system. Some school districts have a 2-tier system, like Cheney.
Hmm.
They have middle and high school start about the same time and ride the bus together, and then elementary starts. So some districts have 2 tiers, some have 3. We're 3 tiers. In order to be the most efficient, we really need 45 minutes between the tiers so
Okay.
that the buses can go out, do their run, and then everybody can get back. If not everybody can get back in time, you need more extra buses to
Sure.
head out on the next tier. So we need 45 minutes between tiers, and then we need the lowest service tier to go in the middle. The lowest service tier is high school. They drive, they use STA. And so right now high school goes first. And so we've collected a lot of input. We had a work group that's met. And then this fall, the school board is going to really start focusing in on a decision around how our start times are going to change. So the start times are going to change, and the order of the
Oh, geez.
tiers is going to change. So that impacts everybody in one way, shape, or form. And I expect that conversation to happen this fall.
Okay, so I didn't plan this one, but okay, this kind of leads me to the conversation of daylight saving time, because we
Yeah.
just spoke to a sleep expert, actually someone with the American Pediatrics, and he was saying that on January 1st in Spokane, if we stayed on daylight saving time, the sunrise wouldn't be until 8:40 a.m. Have you given any thought to how daylight saving time and that hot topic could affect
You,
those start times?
Yeah, we have, and there's so many factors to start time. There's a childcare factor. There's the pediatric research on sleep health for children and adolescents. There's the impact to extracurriculars. I mean, there is layer upon layer upon layer of factors to consider. We did have a focus group of high school kids to talk to them about, like, hey, if we had you go later, would you sleep more? And it was really interesting. That's why it's so important to ask kids.
Sure.
And I know you work with youth in the community, and sometimes what they say is not what you expect.
Right.
And what our focus group of high school kids said is, well, we're not going to sleep more. You're just moving. We're still going to
Mm,
do the same amount in our day. You're just moving the day
yep.
around. So if you make us go to school later, we're just going to stay up later, because we're still going to study. We're still going to do our activities. We're still going to do our time on social media and things like that, although we want them to do less of that. And so lots of things to consider. It's really important that it's a community conversation. It's really important that everybody feels like they've had a chance to have their opinion, because it is going to impact everybody.
Okay, last couple of questions. Every time I drive by Adams, I see more progress. They are
Yeah.
moving along. Although I've spoken to some teachers, they're loving Camp Adams. They love it over there.
Yeah.
What's the latest on Adams, and how's the progress going?
Yeah, we are so blessed in Spokane for so many reasons. We have an incredible local architect and contractor ecosystem. And so NAC Architect and Garco Construction are working on the Adams project. We really believe in our bond dollars and our bond projects really fueling the local economy. And they are elite at what they do. And I've been a part of, I think this is maybe 9 or 10 building projects in my career. And they are moving at light speed on the Adams project. And so it's coming along really well. We'll move kids. It'll be fall of 27 when we open the school. But they're doing an amazing job. They're amazing partners. We're going to build a building that provides the community the highest value. We're not building a luxury resort. We're going to build a great school that's going to be built to last, that provides high value for the community. And a lot of other Together Spokane projects are moving too. Up at Shadle Park, they're getting towards the end of the all-weather fields project up there. We're in the process of doing the designs for the modernization of Merkel, and we're starting to talk about Madison Elementary and Franklin Park and North Central. So there's going to be a lot happening here in the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay, and last question. What are you most hopeful for the next school year?
I think I'm most hopeful that every year we can do a better job at making every kid feel like they belong, and every kid feeling like they have a bright and hopeful future. Public education it's built on a dream. Since the one-room schoolhouse, it's been built on a dream, and the dream is that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what background you have, no matter what challenges you face, the dream of our public education system is everybody has an opportunity for a bright and hopeful future. Everybody gets that. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your disability. It doesn't matter your past experiences. It doesn't matter your race or what group you affiliate with. And, that dream isn't fully fulfilled yet. And any person that's an educator, any person that supports public education is a torchbearer of that dream. And my hope is that we just continue to get better at it, and we continue to increase the number of kids that get to experience that dream. And we're not there yet, and we know we got work to do, and I'm more hopeful than ever that we're going to continue to make great progress.
All right, Dr. Swinyard, thanks for being here this morning.